Hello everyone, my name is Keith and I've got to do some line boring on the kingpin knuckle from my little excavator. It's been quite surprising that there's not actually a lot of wear in the pins and bushings. Most of the wear is in the actual bosses here. There's wear on the pin area, on the pins at the boss area I should say, and wear in the boss itself, yet here where the pin goes to the bushing there's not actually a lot of wear. What I put this down to is lots of pin tabs. The way they're fastened, you can actually get a slight rotation like this while the machine is operating. It's something I've never liked, and I've seen it on lots of machines, and I think the very fact that my bosses are worn a lot more than the pin and bushing goes to show you just how much that slight movement causes accelerated wear. I've took some lengths on some pins I've already done to put a slight wedging mechanism in here so these tabs cannot move at all, they cannot rotate at all. And I did it with some pins that were previously sleeved in the bosses, and they have went through 2 sets of pins without any significant wear. Okay, for the line boring, I don't have $10,000 or $20,000 to spend, so basic self-aligning bearings in the housings. These housings always get F209, F208, etc., depending on the size. Many times the inner diameter of the bearing often fits off-the-shelf hydraulic chrome plated shaft. It often fits it very well so that you don't even need any adapting sleeve. Because I've got these bearings already and I've got this bar is just something I picked up for free. I made some adapter sleeves on my lathe, but you've got to get that very, very close. You can't have any play. It's got to slide but not have play. If anything, you'd want this sleeve a slight press fit in here, not too tight, or it might actually expand the inner race of the bearing to the extent it could lock your bearings up a bit. So the reason you have these plates is that you can put these adjusting screws in to get precise alignment, and then you clamp everything down with the 4 big bolts. And these steel plates, just got them out of some metal I had lying around, put a big hole in, drilled the 4 holes, welded these little bits of metal on and drilled and tapped them for the bolts. So all quite cheap so far. The most expensive thing is probably these bearings. The tooling, I've read on a lot of forums about this, and I'm just using straight round holes. Now a lot of people sleeve these with adapters. You get these little adapters which are like a round bar with a square hole in it for a square tool bit or high-speed steel, such as these. These are brazed carbide TSA types with a specially ground angle so it presents the tip to the bore when this is mounted in the center of the bar. So if there's your bar, it's not up high or low, it's right in the center, and these TSA bits give the cutting edge at the right angle to the bore. So it looks like it's got quite a lot of relief on there, but because this is center mounted, that there does not have as much relief as what it looks like just looking at it like this. Now what I noticed is the outer bosses are worn a lot more than the inner bosses. The inner bosses didn't have a great deal of wear, so for aligning my bar initially I've made up these 2 sleeves. I don't know if you can see, but there's actually two sleeves I've made up there to the diameter of the boss and the diameter of the bar, and that locates the bar quite good. Slight amount of play, but that will be good now for putting these in place, and I can weld my restraining pieces or my mounting pieces of steel for the bearing plates. After that, I can use the adjustment screws to adjust the alignment anymore. Something that never seems to get talked about very much on these line boring videos is the alignment of one shaft relative to another one. So you've got a pin goes through here, and you've got the pins go through here. A lot of the videos, you know, especially the manufacturers, they show you the centering cones, and like that magically just takes care of everything. My thoughts on this are that most of your boss holes, when they are worn out, they're going to be mushroomed. They're not going to be perfectly round. They're going to be mushroomed, elongated. So a centering cone is not going to get you perfect alignment. I mean, after all, the bores are worn out. That's why they're being line bored again. So I would say the centering cones, they can be pressed in position on the best bores you can find. That might get you in the ballpark area, and after that you're going to be using your adjusting screws. But the relationship to other shafts, you have parallelism in two planes, if you like. One is like this. So in other words, if you put a shaft through this bore and shaft through this one, the distances between each one should be exactly the same, because this is rotating, they're rotating relative to each other. But then there's another plane. The other plane is like this. The shafts have to be parallel like that, with no angularity between them that way. So you've got parallelism this way, and you've got parallelism that way, 90 degrees to each other. That never seems to get talked about. I haven't seen one video, and I think I've collected just about every line boring video I can, and it never seems to get talked about. So okay, this is my very first line boring job, and I'm a little bit nervous because this little baby is my source of income on my excavator. If I don't get this ready, I'm out of work. So I'm kind of jumping in the deep end here, doing this for the first time, and wish me luck. I'll come back with a bit more. Now, I forgot to mention about these tool bits in the round holes. I was saying there were sleeves that you can get that have a square hole. I don't have any of them, so from what I've read on forums, it's actually, some people say you'll be perfectly fine if you just put the square tool bit into the round hole, and on top I've got a little 8mm grub screw, and I've also got a grub screw at the back of the tool bit for adjusting the depth. Quite a common way people do it. So that's basically it, and this is what I'm hoping is going to work. So if it works fine, well, it's proven that a round hole will do for the tool bits. I guess when you think of it, at the end of the day, the corners of the tool bit will simply be pressed against the bottom of a round hole, and the grub screw, which has a round but flat surface, will be pressing on the top of this. So hopefully there will not be any rotation at all. It will be held solidly in place.